Okay, everyone, I just hit record, and so I think we'll get started. Good morning. I'm Dan Bostrom from Rails, and I'm going to turn it over to Sue Franson here in a minute, but before I do, I just want to do some housekeeping about today's event. So again, today's event is being recorded. We're very excited to be able to bring you that, and we'll be able to bring you that in two different sections. So we'll do the first hour, and then we'll do the second hour. So you do have the option of participating today, and I can show you how to do that. So we want your questions, and you are able to answer or ask questions at any time. And you can do that through the Q&A function. You should see the Q&A function on your toolbar. And if you notice, you can actually vote for other people's questions. So there is this thumbs up button right there. And if you click that, that means you're upvoting someone's question, just means that you had the same question and you want to hear it. So we are going to take all of the questions for each of the presenters, and we'll take the most popular question for each presenter. So that way we'll be able to, manage the breakout session a little bit easier. Instead of doing individual breakout rooms, we're not going to do that anymore. We're not able to do that through the functionality with Zoom. So we're just going to do one big discussion. But again, you can upvote people's questions, and please do so. Also, when you're addressing your question, if you can make sure that you include the presenter's name in there, that would help us a lot. That would help us be able to organize this entire thing. But you can ask questions whenever you want. Again, just make sure you're using the presenter's name, and then people, if you see someone else has asked your same question, you can upvote it. That would help us a lot. So we'll be doing that for the first session, and then we're also going to be doing that for the second session. So appreciate that. Just a couple other notes. You may see the screen go blank at times here, and that just means we're transitioning between presentations. Not that you've lost screen, so don't feel like something has happened to your Zoom session. Also, some of our presenters have chosen the option of appearing on video like me, and some won't. If you don't see the presenter while they're talking, it's not your computer. They've just chosen not to be. They've chosen to focus more on the PowerPoint than on video, which is completely fine. With all those things said, welcome. And to do our welcome, I'm going to turn it over to Sue Franson. Sue is the Nursing and Health Sciences Librarian at Illinois State University, and she's also the chair of the IACRL Conference and CE Committee. Sue?
Thank you, Dan. I just want to welcome everybody to this first time event. I'm very excited that this Spark event has happened, and also excited that we have so many people who are joining us this morning. Happy Friday. The theme this year is Connect and Get Fired Up. So I hope we are all fired up hearing these wonderful presentations. I do want to, as Dan said, encourage you to be interactive and ask your questions. I also want to thank the Conference and CE Committee for all of their hard work on this. There was also a combined Rails and IACRL Spark Planning Committee that put a lot of work into this. And so we're all very excited to have you here this morning. Without further ado, I want to introduce our first speaker, Emily Gilbert from Rasmussen College will be talking to us about connecting with students through virtual research appointments, lessons learned for marketing and delivery. I know this is something that we have all been doing, and so we're very excited to hear from Emily. Emily, go ahead, please.
Emily, give me 1 second while I pull up your presentation. Sorry about that.
No problem. I can start talking. So hi, everyone. I am Emily Gilbert. I'm the librarian for the School of Health Sciences for Rasmussen College. So I actually worked from home pre-COVID. So I was maybe marginally more prepared for this, but of course it's still been pretty wild. So I'm excited to share with you some details about our virtual research appointments, which is a topic I did not know would be so timely when I proposed it several months ago. And I believe I speak for all of us when I say, yikes. So Dan, if you could go on to the next slide. So I wanted to give you a little background on Rasmussen and the research appointment program. We are a private for-profit college with 23 campuses across the Midwest and Florida, and we also have some programs that are fully online. We moved from campus libraries to a smaller centralized library team in 2014. That was actually before I got here in 2015. And all resources and services went online at that time. So we have been fully digital for over 5 years. The research appointment program began in late 2016. It didn't really get off the ground until 2017. So you can see from the graph on the right, that shows we were kind of building up in 2017, and we really hit our stride with research appointments in the last 2 years. The dark purple in the graph is confirmed appointments, and the light purple is canceled appointments, but we do count all of those because they indicate students that we at least reached at one point, even if they eventually canceled the appointment. So in that time, especially when we were building up in 2017, and then over the time that we've had a lot more usage, we have definitely learned some things that I felt were worth sharing. Also, just so you have a baseline of how we do this, we do our scheduling through LibCal, and we do our delivery through WebEx. But I believe that this could certainly be achieved using different programming as well. So if you could go to the next slide, Dan, thank you.
Actually, if you click it, you can control the.
Oh, I can.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. My bad.
That's okay. There you go.
Oh, awesome. Okay, well, thank you. So when it comes to marketing the research appointment, like everything else, it's a challenge to make students aware of the service. So I do faculty newsletters twice a quarter for the health sciences faculty. So I do promote the research appointments in there quite frequently. I also get invited to a lot of faculty meetings for the different health sciences programs. I always encourage student referrals to research appointments, and sometimes I'm able to share data as well. So the graph in the lower right-hand corner is from an assignment in a specific course before and after research appointments were made a requirement for that assignment. So, you know, the mean grade did go up almost 3%. I'm not moving mountains here, but it is proof to the faculty that the research appointments have value and we can help their students be more successful. So I think that really helps to get the faculty buy-in. When we also do some work with course announcements and social media, at the beginning of each term, I send out a reminder to faculty to put up an announcement with one of these graphics for promoting the research appointments, and they also go out into our library's social media. I designed these myself in Adobe Spark, and I am not really super graphically minded, but we also don't get a lot of support from our marketing department for these kind of smaller initiatives. So I started looking into how I can make graphics myself. I started with the free version of Spark, and I eventually got my department to pay for a premium version that we all share. This allows you access to more themes and more stock photos, but you could probably get by with free if you had to. So that's definitely a good tool to have in your back pocket. Students are also made aware through the schedule appointment button. This is integrated into the LMS as well as in our guides. The LMS has a resources page with other links to things like the library and tutoring. And on the LMS, there is a little blurb about what research appointments are for and how they can be beneficial. So these are all the ways that we try to get the word out. When it comes to delivery, these are some things that I've really learned. Time zone is important. We have campuses across 2 time zones and some programs are fully online, so our students are all over the place. This may have been less of an issue for colleges where most courses are campus-based, but of course with most schooling being done remotely right now, your students might be out of state. So it's a good consideration to have. Make sure you have a time zone reminder in several places. A modality reminder is also important for a virtual appointment. Students don't always understand what this is. They think they have to go somewhere on campus, or they did in the before times. They think you're calling them. They put their phone number in the form. There's no place to put the phone number in the form, but they put it in there anyway. So they're not always paying attention to what kind of appointment this is. So I think it's a good idea to have a couple of reminders about the modality. You can see my appointment request form in the middle, and I make them select a radio button confirming that they understand that the appointment is in WebEx and that it's in Central Time. I'm not convinced that everyone reads this, but invariably a lot of them do, and I think this has helped a lot since I've made that a requirement to set the appointment. Reminder emails are also sent out. So they actually get a confirmation email when they sign up for the appointment, and then a reminder email 1 hour before the appointment time. The reminder email reminds them about technical requirements. It gives them a link to the WebEx room. So again, a modality reminder, and another reminder of the time zone. I don't know if you can see it, it might be a little small, but there is a sample reminder email at the bottom right of the slide. And I actually ended up highlighting the modality and the time zone per a suggestion from one of our tutors who did a research appointment with me and then said, hey, I think this would be helpful because I don't always read my emails, but if it's highlighted, it might catch my eye. So we try. And I do think, you know, anecdotally, I think it's helped since I've started doing those two things. We also do an intro slide. So when you first come into an appointment with me, you see that intro slide at the top right of the slide. This just gives some reminders on how to connect to audio, and it informs them that I will be recording. So that way, if they don't want a recording, they can let me know. And then I do follow-up emails too. So the follow-up email gets a recording. It sends a link to a survey about, you know, if they liked it, if they thought it was helpful, how we can improve, and also links to any resources we discussed. I think it's very helpful to write that email as soon as you're done so you remember exactly what you're supposed to send them. A few other lessons I've learned. Vigilantly update your availability for your bookings. This means you're going to have to make it a part of your routine for scheduling any time off, for calling in sick. LibCal syncs with Outlook, so I've just made it a habit that if I call in sick, I put in an all-day appointment so no one can book with me for that day. Start small with your promises to faculty. You are not a research appointment robot. Preserve your sanity. That's why I put Janet from The Good Place on here, because she always says she's not a robot. You are also not a robot, and you need to make sure you're only doing as much as you can. So there was one course at Rasmussen that was written with a research appointment built into the assignment as a requirement, and I was delighted because I was trying to get more students to come. It was a cohort of 11, so you know that wasn't a huge deal. The next time the course ran, the cohort had grown from 11 to 40, and I almost lost my mind. So that blurred schedule on the right is what my schedule looked like. All of the purple there is research appointments, and that was when I really had to accept that I'm only one person and there's only so much I can do. But moving right into my next bullet point, then you can start to collaborate with faculty and be creative. What I ended up doing for that course is saying, okay, I cannot humanly offer the individual research appointments anymore, but I can work with you and do 2 live demos during that week. And then I can work with them and see, you know, what times are going to work best with their course and any other details that are relevant. And then finally, assess trends. If you see a bunch of requests for the same course, target some marketing, reach out to those faculty members specifically. You can sometimes get more engagement with emails that are targeted to a smaller group. So that's it for me. It's been 10 minutes. I don't want to be going over, but if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me anytime. My email's on the slide, and I'd love to talk to you about it. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Emily. Remember, everybody, please put your questions in the Q&A area. At any time, you can ask questions. So I'm encouraging you to do that. Thank you, Emily, for starting us off. Our second speaker today is Beth Mandrell from Wren Lake College, and she's going to talk about getting fired up about library spaces.
Hey Beth, I stopped sharing. Are you able to share your screen? Hey Beth, looks like you're on mute. Are you able to do share right now?
Sorry, I went to some kind of a screen that was weird. I don't know what it was. Okay, so yes, I can share. Let me get it up here.
Got it.
Oops, gotta start from the beginning. All right. Can everybody see my screen now?
Looks great.
Okay. Sorry about that. Had a little hiccup there. With all of the planning, you still will have things like that. In the beginning, I called my proposal Getting Fired Up About Library Space, and I thought that the higher ups at the school might think I was going to burn the library or something, so I changed it to A Little Spark Ignites a Flame. I'm Beth Mandrell, and I'm the reference librarian at Wren Lake College. I've worked there 21 years. We are a small community college in Southern Illinois. So how it got started was the library had been built in 1973, and we were wanting to make some changes. And it's like moving a mountain sometimes to get those things done. So the very first thing that we started with was the director that we had then decided to put her money in the foundation toward updates for the library. And so she put quite a bit of money back to finish the walls. And if you look at the left-hand picture, there, right in this area right here, you'll see that the walls were block and they were institutional white. So lovely. But anyway, and then this was all white. So everything, there was no color whatsoever. So we decided to put a brick facade, which our maintenance did this on both ends of the library. And it really, really made such a difference in the appearance. Well, then we decided to go to take these curtains down take the curtains down right here and try to get some new window treatment, because a lot of sun comes in these great big old windows, which are really not heat or air efficient. So that was going to cost us $15,000. So we decided, okay, we put it off several years, and we knew we had to do something else. Continually, the students would ask for study rooms, and they would ask for a coffee shop. So every year we were like asking about those things. We finally, as you can see over here in the right-hand corner, we finally did get a coffee shop. It's called Blended. It also offers not only coffee, but they offer fresh food like vegetables and dip and fruit and dip and cheese. So the students do have something that's affordable for them to eat. Then the staff kept asking for study rooms, but we kept losing them to staff offices. And then of course, down on the lower right-hand side, that was the entrance to the library. That's one entrance, and the other entrance doesn't even look like it goes into the library because there's nothing there to indicate that. So we just needed that updated too. So don't tell us we can't do something, because we're going to try it anyway. So on the left-hand side, you'll see we decided to start raising some money to at least get the window treatments done. And we started with Glow Bingo. We did some trivia. We do candy sales and silent auction baskets at the Glow Bingo and other places. And we were able to raise at the first Glow Bingo, we were able to raise $4,000 ourselves. So that kind of got us started, and we just kept it up till we had raised 15,000. So then we go to the president and say, we've got the money for. So that got the attention of the president, and he took it to the foundation, and the foundation took it and made a project out of it called the Hub Project. They helped us with paying for the gaming license for the Glow Bingo, and then they started having fundraiser dinners and luncheons themselves in the library and trying to get donors then interested. They hope to raise 600,000. They have 90% of it raised for us to do this project. We also got some grant money that will pay for study room furniture. And you'll see what I'm talking about when I go to the next screen, which is these are our hubs of what we're going to do. We're going to update all of these 3 areas. The Learning Resource Center, the CTE lab, which is a learning and collaborative lab, and it's also a tutoring center for career tech students. And then the Children's Library, we're going to improve it so that parents can bring their students. There'll be glass walls where they can be sitting at a computer and still see their children if they need help with you know, them being entertained while they're working. The before and after entrance, where the learning resource sign is, that is where a new entrance will come in. And on the right-hand side, you can see the actual mock-up of the entrance there. And then this will be a patio and all of that. This all explained in a video that I am going to show you at the end. So the inside, this is what the entrance where it would be. So the project itself in the library is to take these non-efficient windows and move them out to this eave that's right here and put in a window that is efficient, and then to make study rooms in this area and all along here. And then on the right-hand side, you'll see kind of their mock-up of what the study rooms would look like. One of the study rooms will be a makerspace. One will be a presentation room that students can practice speeches or listen to their speeches or do group projects together. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and show you this slide, and then we'll go through the video. There is my email address if you have any questions. There is, I'm going to leave the video, the link for the video and the brochure, and then our Learning Resource Center. So let's go back and let's look at the video. This was a really great video that they did for advertising. And of course, where to go to? Here we go. Okay.
At college, students are our #1 priority.
Hey Beth, we actually can't see the video right now. You might have to do a share screen for your entire screen so that we can see the
New share.
Yeah, exactly. Do a new share. Yep.
Okay, let me start it over to. Sorry. Thanks for seeing that quickly.
Nope, that's great. We can see it now.
Okay, here we go.
Oh, but we can't hear the audio. So
yeah.
you might have to do when you do the screen share. There should be an option to like share audio as well, I think.
Okay, hold on.
Do you see that?
It's in the new share, so I need to stop that one. Okay, just hold on here. Let me share the screen. Let's see. Now, where would that be?
Is there a button to the right that says, is there an arrow that says share screen with audio or something like that, or share audio?
No. Well, let's see what this does. Cloud. Well, I wonder if I need to go back and just share it from here. I was trying to have it open and share it in another. Let me see if I can do this.
Yeah, try that.
Can you see this now, what I'm doing right now?
Well, we can see that there's a YouTube video open.
Okay. All right.
Oh no, we're not seeing it. Sorry.
Okay,
These things
I'll
never
stop
quite work
this.
as you think that they are.
All right. Let me see if I can go back and, I'm sorry, this is, I just thought this would work much easier than it's doing. Now, can you see it?
Yep, we can see it.
Can you hear it?
No, unfortunately. Sorry. Do you wanna do you wanna just copy the link into the chat and people can watch it on their own?
Sure, I can do that.
Is that
sure.
okay? Sorry. I wish that this was easier.
Yeah, I didn't think about them not being able to. Okay, so let me go to here. Let me grab this and I'm gonna stop this share and go to the chat. I hope it works for them, but you should even just be able to go to YouTube and put it in there because I actually did that this morning. So, all right.
Okay, thanks, Beth. Sorry that didn't work.
Okay, that's fine.
Thank you so much, Beth, for sharing information about how your library raised funds for library space improvements. Remember, please, everybody, to ask your questions in the Q&A area and also upvote those questions. Our next speaker is Michelle Nielsen-Ott. She is at Methodist College, and she is going to present Working Hard or Hardly Working, Project Management for the Busy Librarian.
Okay, Michelle, I just gave you access to control the slides. And you're on mute.
All right, thank you. I'm trying to make sure I have everything in the right spot. Okay. Hi, my name is Michelle, like Sue said, and I'll be talking about project management. Let's see. Oh, it didn't.
I gotcha.
Okay, thanks.
Hold on. Okay, stop. Yeah, there you go. Okay, and okay, now try using those buttons in the bottom.
I don't have any buttons in the bottom.
Oh, there you go.
Okay.
You got it.
So a project is a problem scheduled for solution. That's basically project management in a nutshell. So let's dive a little bit deeper. Oops, I went too far now. A little bit deeper into the idea of a problem scheduled for a solution. Let's start by defining the foundational components of project management. So project management is the planning, scheduling, orchestrating of a project's activities to achieve objectives within a specified period of time. This is an interdisciplinary skill that involves planning, organizing, budgeting, team management, controlling, executing, communicating, and risk analysis. So just a few skills you have to have. But project management is really important because it it makes things get done on time and on budget, and that resources are used efficiently, and that value is added to your organization and your institution. So, like I said, there are 4 phases to project management: defining and organizing, planning, executing, and then closing the project. The major tasks of these phases are often overlap and are iterative. So we'll start by just discussing each phase individually. So defining and organizing. This is the foundation of the project, right? So this is how the project begins. And by uncovering the root of the problem, or sometimes I don't always think of them as problems, I think of them as issues or something that I want to make better. In this area, objectives are also defined, and you want to make sure those objectives use that SMART system so that they are specific, measurable, action-oriented, realistic, and time-limited. that if you've ever heard of SMART goals before, SMART objectives are also something that you would want to have. These objectives are so important in a project because it really defines the success of the project. If the objectives are met, then it's successful. If they're not met, it's not as big of a success. So you want to make sure that those objectives are well thought out, that they are achievable, and that they align with your institution or library's mission, vision, and values. Also, defining the project helps curtail scope creep, and scope creep is when you expand the scope of your project beyond its original aims because, oh, we can add this and we can add this and we can add this. But you have to resist that urge to solve everyone's problem with your project. Your project solves this problem. Other people's problems can be solved with other projects. We have to really be sometimes narrowly focused on this. And that's what really helps in this defining phase. Also in this phase, the people who are going to work on the project are identified. So of course we have to start with like the person who authorizes the project, and that is the project sponsor. They're the, they authorize it, they're the champion. They usually remove like institutional barriers and obstructions, and they try to make sure that the team has the resources they need. So they're more on that administrative levels. Like for me, it's my dean or provost. For you all, it might be a director or dean, another campus on, or another department on campus, however that works. Then there's the project manager, and the project manager manages the day-to-day part of the execution of the project and really breaks down the plan and schedules the project tasks. If the project is large enough, there's also a team leader, but for small projects, the team leader and the project manager are the same person. I'm a solo librarian, so I'm always the project manager and the project lead. But it may be different depending on different projects. If I'm working on a project that's more institutional, that would be different. But within the library, I'm always manager and leader. And so the project leader's job, or the team leader's job, is to be an initiator and to really get going, model and negotiate and listen and coach and actually work as a member of the team towards the goals. And they also make sure that everyone is contributing and their voices are being heard. The project team members are another part of the team, and they are the ones who do like the majority of the tasks. So they should be selected based on their abilities and skills that are needed to do the tasks. And you should also make sure that they have collaboration skills, because that's really important in teams to make sure that they're able to work together. In this phase, you also identify stakeholders, which is anyone who has any sort of vested interest in the project. So it might just be your supervisor, other departments on campus, students, faculty, staff, the public. It just kind of depends on your project. It's also very important in this defining part to make sure that everyone knows their roles and responsibilities and it's clearly defined. And you can do this by making a project charter or some sort of document like that that spells out the nature and scope of work and the expectations, so everyone is on the same page. And without this kind of document, a project can kind of lead off and meander. So you want to make sure that you have something that kind of binds you together to make sure that you're getting things done from the onset. And also in this phase, what you do is you take the big, so you have your big project, right? And then you have to start making it smaller and breaking it down into manageable sections. Once you've done that, you kind of are in the planning process. So you've assembled your team and your project has been divided into smaller pieces. It's now time to like focus on the budget, see if the budget even allows you to continue with the project. And it's also time to start scheduling how the project will be done. And so if you're kind of nerdy like me and you like charts and graphs and things like that, you'll be using like a Gantt chart or a PERT chart. And these are charts that kind of visualize the different components of the project and shows when work is expected to be done and when it's expected to be finished to be done, and like how they interact together on a kind of a timeline so you can stay on schedule. Planning also means meetings, and I'm sure you're all very familiar with meetings, but you want to make sure that those meetings are being productive and that they are scheduled regularly and that you have minutes so that everyone can expect when the project's meetings are happening and know that everything is being recorded in the minutes so that we can move forward. I've been to too many meetings where we're like, what did we discuss last time? What did we decide? Minutes help you make sure that you keep that forward momentum. You also in this phase may create like status reports for stakeholders, especially if this project is really long and they want to know, hey, where are you at? Right now, like I'm working on a grant with, and so if you all are working on maybe a multi-year grant, your grantor is going to want to have these, you know, updates quarterly or whatever. And so you make sure that those things are happening, for example. Then after planning, you execute it. So you actually do it, right? This is the orchestrating part, right? The defining, organizing, and planning should make this part of the process run smoothly because I also like to think project management is a lot like writing a paper or doing schoolwork in general. The more defining, planning, and organizing you do before actually like writing the paper, the more smoothly the writing actually goes. So you don't want to miss out on those early critical steps. I think a lot of people are just like, okay, ready, set, go, let's do it. But you really have to do those beginning parts to make a good foundation for the actual doing of the project. In this executing part, you want to make sure you're tracking milestones and that you're monitoring, and of course developing some contingency plans in case things kind of go off schedule. And I wanted to share with you a really funny post that I read just this week on social media about project management, and it said, "My gut is that most conspiracy theorists have not been project managers. Their optimism is adorable. Faking a major event would require thousands of people. Try managing a project. Getting 12 people to do what they're supposed to do on time without blabbing early is nearly impossible." So I thought that quote was really apropos to this because it really explains like, oh, you think the doing part, like, hey, we're doing it, but to really coordinate to make sure everyone is doing what they're supposed to be doing on time can really take a lot of management skills. And so a lot of times like a project manager is not in the actual in the actual doing of the project because they're so busy with dealing with all these other aspects of dealing with the project, making sure it gets done. But again, in smaller projects, that project manager will be a team member as well. At the end then, you make sure you close down the project, and this is something I think that is often overlooked, but you always want to have a meeting where you come together and really celebrate your successes and really highlight the hard work that you have put in to this project, and also talk about lessons learned. In the lessons learned section, I always like to do a T-chart of pluses and deltas, and I don't know if you all have done this before, but it's just like draw a line down the center of a page. On one side, you'll write your pluses, so those are the things that went really, really well and that you really loved about this project or event or whatever you just did. And then on the other side is the delta, and that's the delta is the symbol for change, right? So it's not our minuses, we don't want to do that. It's the things that we can improve on, you know, things that went okay but could just do a little bit better, or things that we like didn't think of in that planning phase that we want to definitely include in our planning phase if we do a project like this in the future. Collecting this information from all team members is so valuable. And then of course, collecting all the documents from this project and keeping it together is very valuable so that we can continue to learn from the project. I just wanted to give you a little overview of a project that I did early on in my career as the Director of Library Services at Methodist College. I started in January of 2017. And when I started the library, and so to give you a kind of an overview, our library is small. We're a small health sciences college. We have an FTE of under 500 students, so small. But when I started, none of our books had barcodes on them. And none of our books were tattle taped, even though we had like the gates. And actually most of our books didn't have like ownership stamps on them. So they were just kind of books that, I mean, they had call numbers on them, and that was like the only identifying thing that made them a library book. So I was like, we need to really change this. And so I didn't create like a project or a charter document, but at Methodist College, we usually call them project proposals. But in the project proposal, it's very much like a charter document. I said what we were going to do, who was going to do it, what's our timeline, what's our budget, all that sort of stuff, laid it all out so that it would be approved by the administration. And then once it was approved, we were able to get working on it. So it was approved. I was able to purchase the materials. I was able to train my student workers. And then we were able, as soon as the summer semester started, to start on it. It was a summer project. We thought it would take all summer, but we worked really diligently on it, and we were able to finish several weeks early and exceed our goal. And so we have about 5,000 items that we individually touched that summer and made sure that they were actually being barcoded and that was linked up in the ILS. So and because this was one of my first major projects as director, it really set a strong precedence for successful future endeavors, and my administration really trusts me to get things done, and they're more likely to listen to my ideas and my projects because I have been able to successfully complete projects and show its value. So that's kind of a very quick overview in 10 minutes. Thank you for listening. Please enter your questions in the question and answer chat, and I'll answer those when we get to that section. Thank you. And my email is on the bottom if you ever want to reach out to me. Thanks.
Thanks so much, Michelle. I appreciated that specific example of how you used project management. Our next speaker is Catherine Lawson. Catherine's at McMurray College, and her presentation is Sparking a Connection to Deconstruct Data.
One second, Catherine. I'm getting it up just as we speak. Okay, and I'm giving you control right now. Catherine, are you there? Maybe you're on mute. Catherine, can we hear you? It seems like maybe we lost Catherine. Catherine, are you there? Shoot, okay. All right. I'm not seeing Catherine actually in our participant list. So
It looks like she just came back in.
Just came back. Okay. Never as smooth as you think that these things are going to go, right? Catherine, can you hear us? I can see that your microphone is on, but it looks like maybe it's turned way down. Is that possible? Maybe try, if you're using headphones, maybe try plugging or unplugging your headphones and just doing your computer audio.
All right, is that working?
Yeah, that's working. That's great.
Okay, of course Zoom wants to update right in the middle. All right, thank you guys for your patience. So as they said, I am Catherine Lawson from McMurray College, and my session is going to be a quick session focusing on library instruction that really facilitates learning through deconstructing data, as well as information literacy tips to encourage student inquiry and familiarity with data usage and understanding, which is really just a interpretation that I got from the Sparking a Connection and getting fired up. So this is going to be based on a lesson that I did with a leadership course. So let's go ahead and get this started.
1 second, Kate. Hold on. Let me just get this back. Okay. All right. Now try it.
All right, there we go. So setting the stage, this information literacy session was with sophomores and juniors at our college, and it was in a leadership course. The course was in an evening class, so we had about 2 hours, and my actual instruction was about 30 minutes of the entire class time. So this library instruction session was based on the movie Heroine, which the instructor had the entire class watch during their own time, and come back and talk about the leadership aspects that were depicted in this short film. So this short film, if you haven't seen it, is based in Huntington, West Virginia, where the overdose rate is 10 times the national average. And the movie actually came out in 2017. So it followed 3 different women, a fire chief, a judge, and a missionary throughout their different struggles dealing with the opioid crisis in West Virginia. So as I said, I worked with a colleague on this, and she led the class discussion for about the first 45 minutes of the class, and I engaged in this discussion and really encouraged students to open up about this topic and any knowledge or experience that they had. We had several psychology students, nursing students, law enforcement and justice administration students. So really all individuals that would be involved in this in their future. And many of them also had personal experiences too. So it was really important for me to really spark that connection and have them make a personal connection to this movie and the class so that they can use it in the future. So as I mentioned, this movie came out in 2017. So when I was having this discussion with the class, I asked them, well, what do you propose the leadership skills actually did? Do you think it helped? Do you think they made changes over time? And I had a variety of answers coming from the students. And I said, well, why don't we figure this out? So I pulled up the computer and projected, and I walked them through how to find this information, how to see if the initiatives the judge put in place in the drug court actually worked. I pulled up the data and the information from the West Virginia county to see if the opioid deaths increased or decreased after the initiatives that they mentioned in the film. And thankfully they did. But what was really important was that I was able to get these students engaged and to start having them ask questions and being curious about the information. So moving on to this second slide, I really tried to deconstruct the data and having them make a personal connection. So as you see on the screen to the right, we have the Illinois Department of Public Health. They have an excellent dashboard that provides great data and allows students to visualize this data. Whereas I find a lot of students have issues using data in their research or really understanding data when they're presented with it, because I feel like sometimes it's too big of a number or they can't understand it. So by deconstructing this data and providing data in measurable or personal accounts, they're able to really understand and utilize this data more often. So to deconstruct this specific data, I pulled up this website and I was able to search the zip code that our college is in. I showed them my zip code and the overdose rates and death rates for our individual counties. And from there, the students were interested in their own counties and started raising their hand and wanted me to pull up the information in their own counties. And it led to great discussions where people were able to open up about their experiences or just being able to rationalize, you know, there were X amount of deaths in my county and it's a small county. So it was really informative, but also allowed the students to find this personal connection with data instead of data as just an abstract number without meaning. So by deconstructing this data and allowing students to make this personalization and rationalize this data, I used this inquiry to show them other data sites that they can use in their future. Some of these data sites I went ahead and listed: the opioid epidemic, immigration, slavery and mass incarceration, and children in poverty are all several different examples that many of the students were able to find connections with. And of course, these are listed on our LibGuides, which are subject specific. So I was able to show them on our specific LibGuides how to access this information. And because it is sectioned off by discipline, social work students were able to understand how to access demographic data and assess our county's poverty level and how that affects children. So throughout this information literacy session, I was able to pull several different major disciplines, which were represented by the students in the class, and show them how to access the information, how to understand that information, and then how to use that information in their specific disciplines. So if you wanted to take a quick shot of these exact websites, go ahead and feel free to do that now. But these are just a few that I shared with the students that I also think are very neat. So going back to this last slide, my interpretation of Spark, Connect, and Get Fired Up was kind of deconstruct, question, and then utilize. By personalizing the data, I was able to make it comprehensible for these students instead of this abstract number. And because they were able to understand the number and see almost a face in the numbers, it sparked more inquiry for the students. And so they were asking more questions, they were becoming more involved. I had a student raise her hand and say, "This is really interesting, but I'm from Texas." And I said, "Okay, class, how can we figure out her county?" So I helped them walk them through answering the students' questions. So we were able to find public health records for this individual who is based out of Texas. So I was able to walk the class through their questions that they had. And then by demonstrating how to use the data and how to use these specific examples in their research and in their paper, I felt more confident with their understanding of data and what to do with that data now that they have it. So if you have any questions for me specifically, feel free to drop those in the chat box. Thank you guys for your time, and I think I'll go ahead and defer to the questions in our Q&A session.
Thank you so much, Catherine. I, as a health sciences librarian, also teach data, so I would love to talk to you more about your project in the future. We are now at the breakout discussion portion of our program. Please feel free to continue asking questions in the Q&A and upvoting questions that are there. We'd like to make this as interactive as possible. So I am going to start by asking Michelle if she could answer the question, do you have a sample project management template to share for grants or from grants or projects that you found most successful?
Okay, I'm unmuted now. Okay. So, quick answer is no, but I mean, I don't have like a specific template that I use. So like the one that I'm using from the grant right now, like is supplied by the grantor. So I just fill that form out. That's really great because they're already doing that. I'm just filling out a form that shows like how much of the, like this quarter, how much money did you spend? What part of your, you know, in the project proposal, like what objectives did you meet this quarter? Those sorts of things. What I will tell you about are some tools that I find really successful for some other projects that I've done. So if you haven't used Trello, I love using Trello for tracking projects. It's a website and an app on your phone. And it's really great because you can work in a team and you can assign, like you basically make, I don't know, I feel like it's like a bulletin board with a bunch of Post-its on it or something like that, that you then like move around. And so you can move it. So like you can break out phases, and then you can assign people to those phases by the time. You can tag a time and a person. And then you can, as they finish it, they can slide it over. So like many years ago, I don't know if you all remember when LibGuides went from version 1 to version 2. I mean, this is 5, 6, I don't know, years ago. But my job at the time was to do that. And so what we did is we took Trello and I put like every LibGuide in a corner, you know, like, and then I had them assigned to people. And then when they did the first upgrade, they had to move it to their, they moved their tile to the place where they did their first upgrade, okay? And everything had to be in that column by this date. And then we had to slide everything over by this date. And that, I found that to be very helpful and beneficial. But I think in general, charters and like things, it really depends on your project and your institution a lot of times. I think you just have to think about who your audience is. Like when I know I'm writing for like my dean or for my provost or for my chancellor, I write with that lens and I look at that, but I make sure that roles are defined and I make sure that, and I also, you know, work that way. I hope that answers the question. And yeah, so. Thanks.
Thank you, Michelle. There's a question here for Emily. When you do the WebEx meetings, do you have to manually send a separate email with the WebEx meeting invite?
So no, because we work with LibCal, that is automatically sent out. We're able to basically put whatever we want in the confirmation email. So if it was going to be like, you know, if you were doing a room on campus or something like that, you could say meet me here. So we put the technical requirements and the link in there, and LibCal also automatically sends out the not the confirmation email, that was the confirmation email. They send out the reminder email, which also has the link, and that's an hour before. LibCal does offer functionality to do a follow-up email once you can like go in there and mark the appointment as completed. I don't really use that because I track everything myself in an Excel sheet, but I wouldn't use that anyway because I can't like put any links that we talked about or the recording link in there if it's being automatically sent out. So that one I do manually. I also have a missed appointment email that I will send out manually if someone no-shows, just with like, you know, hey, we had this appointment. If you still need help, here's the link to library chat. Here's the link to schedule a new appointment, etc. So, so I do the missed appointment emails and the follow-ups manually, and the other ones are automated. So I hope that helps.
Thank you so much, Emily. There is a question here for Catherine. What challenges, if any, arose in teaching students to analyze the data objectively and balance this against their own experiences or knowledge?
One challenge that I had, and because this class was very discussion based, was a student had personal experience. Their father was a police officer, and because the documentary posed people involved in the opioid epidemic in a sympathetic light towards addiction, that student didn't feel that way at all, and she very much had personal issues with seeing sympathetically towards these people and objectively looking at the numbers and seeing how naloxone or Narcan and specific overdose drugs such as that were being distributed freely. And so she was very vocal about how she did not feel that that was appropriate. And so one way that I was able to kind of balance this out and also demonstrate to the class how to use data and how to prove if things work or do not work was by pulling up the records from the West Virginia County and showing these were the opioid overdoses and deaths for 2017. And these are the deaths from 2019 after they implemented these changes. And so although a couple students really struggled with their view towards others who struggle with addiction, I was really able to show, yeah, but these changes really did work, as we see throughout the data presented in the public health forum and the data that I was able to access from West Virginia. And so although they were personally conflicted, they were able to still step back and say objectively, well, you're able to demonstrate that these things did make a change for the positive, even though I don't like it. So that would be my one example of that question.
Great example, thank you. There is a question here for Beth. How difficult is it to convince administrators of the need for adding a non-library service such as a coffee shop?
Of course, you know, we've all got those signs up that say no drink, no food, you know, in the library. Well, that came into play, and we felt like we could hopefully control it. I think administrators were for it because students had asked for it for so many times in the suggestion box in the survey. And so admin usually pays attention to those things when it appears several years in a row. So, I mean, I guess that's what you're talking about. The question I'm looking at is, does having a coffee shop create challenges? Is that the same question as you're asking me?
The question was convincing administrators of the.
Okay, well, that didn't seem to be a problem because it had been discussed for so many years. So when we finally got it, it was pretty well, and we had the space, so.
Let's do one more question, and this question is for all of the presenters. When you are planning projects, how are you polling customers to see what they're interested in? Do you use in-house or online surveys, mandatory prompts at checkout that require yes or no, or other things? That's for everyone, so whoever wants to answer, or we could have a discussion.
I'll go ahead and start real quick. This is Kate. My college was luckily so small enough that oftentimes I had a personal relationship with many students, and just building that rapport, a lot of students would come up to me and just freely share. So there was very little official prompting or polling, and really just sitting and listening to the students. And I realize not all of us are in that boat where we're able to have that sort of interaction with students, or the number of students is just too large to be able to do that. But that was my experience. That worked well.
Yeah. So this is Michelle. I would say very similar because I have a very small student body that I'm able to talk to students a lot more. I also adjunct teach at the college one class. So I'm able to like talk to those students as well and kind of build relationships more than doing official polling. I mean, we do We do an end of the year survey of services for the college, and so I'll get some information there, but that's more high level than what events I really need to do. I usually just talk to faculty and I talk to students because we're so small.
This is Beth. We have a student survey that goes out every semester, and we do use that information and report back to administrators on that too. And then plus we are small enough to be able to get a lot of comments from students also.
This is Emily. We are not very small, but we are fully online. Like I said, the library team, so we don't really get to do a lot of chatting with our students, unfortunately. But what we have been able to do is leverage our tutors, because each librarian is paired with a learning services coordinator, Rasmussen, who has a team of tutors that work under the same school within the college. So we've been able to, like when we did our website redesign a couple years ago, we pulled the tutors pretty heavily. We pulled faculty and asked for a lot of feedback that way. And now we have a couple library assistants as well, student workers that we've been able to get some help from. But yeah, the tutors have been invaluable.
Thank you, everybody, so much for your questions, your upvotes, and to our presenters for answering those questions. We're a little over 11 o'clock right now. I believe we have a break scheduled in. Is that right, Dan?
Yeah, I think we should maybe forego the break, if that's okay, if people can if people can manage their own breaks here. I do want to stop the recording. I'm going to stop the recording and start up for the second round, and then we'll turn it over to Michelle. Is that okay?
Sounds great to me.
All right. So you can see it's stop recording.